So much for being here. And special thanks to Phil Notra Masso for being with us this morning. And it says here, don't forget that it's Teddy Bear Sunday. And just to prove that we are a diverse community, we include dinosaurs. Oh, that's cool. I want to hug that puppy. Okay. I'm going to carry this all the way through, if you don't mind. Okay. So Unity is a positive path for spiritual living. Here at Unity Creek, we have a mission, and that mission is this. In loving community, we empower spiritual growth by modeling and teaching universal spiritual principles. Amen? Amen. All right. Yo, bro. And so right now we're going to say our statement in faith together. Before we do, as we like to do, we take a deep breath. And as we exhale, we're going to say thank you. Okay? So take a deep breath. Exhale and say thank you. Yeah. And let's say our affirmation. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. And just let that soak in and know it to be true. Yeah. If you are with us for the first time and are comfortable doing so, we invite you to raise your hand now so that we may bring you a welcome packet. Great, we have a couple newcomers. Thank you for being here this morning. There is also a connection card in your packet. Please take them to our bookstore across the courtyard in between the drops out there for an additional welcome gift of a wooden necklace handmade by one of our congregants. If you would rather pick up the packet later at the welcome table and still visit our bookstore for a gift, you are very welcome to do that. Get everyone cool. So thank you for being here, as we said before. Connection cards are available for everyone in the seat pockets in front of you. With this card, you may submit a prayer request, and our prayer chaplains will pray with you throughout the week. You may also share feedbacks with us on these cards. If you request information, our staff will respond to you during office hours. The ushers will receive your card with the offerer. And now it is time to greet your neighbor, or as I like to say, huggy, huggy time. And please ask if people want to be hugged if you don't know them. Dan. Hey. What's up, brother? I know. He likes to be hugged.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Ciel. And today is Teddy Bear Sunday, as you just heard. And there is still time to get your bear in the bookstore. We will be giving them to children in need of a comforting bear. And for the holidays this year, we are collecting money and gift cards to help families that have been affected by domestic violence. And we are trying to help as many families as possible. And Levon Martel is on the patio for your donations. And join us this Wednesday for the Heart and Mind Sunday Summit. We can call it Sunday if you want, but Tony Roberts, Ernie Isaacs, and Nancy Faraci will help us access our inner wisdom, heart intelligence, and intuition to help us add peace and joy to our holiday season and the rest of our lives. Our neighbors from Walnut Creek Village will be here next Sunday after the 11:30 service to give us information that will help seniors to continue to live independently. And on December 10th, we have a presentation on essential yoga, followed by a slideshow on sacred places in India. Nice. Please take a look at today's bulletin for details on these and other events. Now let's enjoy another musical celebration.
All right, people, listen up. One, two, three, four.
Sometimes I'm right, but I could be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. The butcher, the banker, the drummer, and then makes no difference what group I'm in. I am everyday people, yeah, yeah. There is the blue one that doesn't like the green one, for living with the fat one who's trying to be a skinny one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Dooby. Ooh, sha-sha. We got to live together. I am no better, either are you. We are the same, whatever we do. You love me, you hate me, you know me, and then you can't figure out the bag I'm in. I am everyday people, yeah, yeah. Now there is the long hair that doesn't like the short hair, for being such a rich one who will not help the poor one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Dooby. Ooh, sha-sha. Ooh, sha-sha. Then there is the .com who can't accept his stepmom and sister and brother from speaking to their mother. And different folks for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Dooby. Ooh, sha-sha. Why can't we live together? There is the left wing that doesn't like the right wing. It seems kind of absurd. There's two wings on the same bird. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Dooby. Ooh, sha-sha. Ooh, sha-sha.
Come on, everyone.
Ooh, sha-sha. Ooh, sha-sha. Ooh, sha-sha. Ooh, sha-sha. Ooh, sha-sha. Ooh.
Well, that was a fun and perfect song for today. So I invite you to prepare for a time of meditation. CL, our prayer chaplain coordinator, is going to begin us off with a community prayer reading.
Today's prayer is adapted from the Daily Word for Thanksgiving Day. I give thanks for my family, my ancestors, the diversity of our beliefs. I feel gladness throughout my being when I tell family and friends they are blessings in my life, even when they challenge me. Just as Paul wrote to the Philippians, I thank my God every time I remember you. Today, I remember my ancestors too, and give thanks for my divinely ordained lineage. Just as in the first Thanksgiving, people of different backgrounds and ideologies are always welcome at my table. I honor respectfully and mind-open conversations, knowing diversity, strengths in the human family. So the people ate the food of the festival for 7 days, giving thanks to the Lord, the God of their ancestors. 2 Chronicles 30:22.
So we take a moment to give thanks for all our relations, allowing to arise in the heart of our hearts anyone for whom we are grateful. Could be someone who's related by blood or by marriage or simply through friendship. Allowing ourselves to feel gratitude for this connection, for this being who blesses our lives. And then making room for another. And taking a moment to be present with this one. Noticing how, as each being is invited into our hearts to be blessed with gratitude, that our whole countenance shifts into the vibration of gratitude. That there is an opening, an expansion of the heart, a relaxation of the body, at the same time that we are revitalized. When you feel like the ground is fertile and that you have created a space of gratitude within your being, I invite you to allow someone to arise who you've had some difficulty with. And give this image or feeling of this individual lots of space, lots of spaciousness in your heart. See how they are received in the presence of the divine, in love and gratitude. How their countenance brightens. Just like me, this one wants love. Just like me, this one wants attention. Has desires for connection and celebration, for kindness, fulfillment. and safety. Perhaps you turn your attention even to a whole group of people that you've left out of your heart. And notice again how, just like me, these individuals also want joy and safety, peace and fulfillment, a sense of well-being for themselves and their children. And so you may wish to go on blessing these others in your time of meditation, or to allow these images to dissolve and just take a moment to be with the presence of gratitude, of openness, of welcome. Now we take a moment to give thanks to ourselves for all that we are and all that we are becoming, for the continuous process of awakening, for the diligence on our spiritual path. Thank you, God, for all that I am. And so it is.
Mr. Dwayne Beddoes, everybody. When it's family, you forgive them, for they know not what they do. When it's family, you accept them, cause you have no choice but to. When it's family, they're a mirror of the worst and best in you. And they always put you through the test, and you always try your very best and pray for God to do the rest. When it's family, some are preachers, some are gay, some are addicts, drunks, and strays, but not a one is turned away when it's family. Some are lucky, others ain't. Some are fighters, others faint. Winners, losers, sinners, saints, they're all family. And when it's family, you trust them, and your heart's an open door. When it's family, you tolerate what you'd harm others for. When it's family, you love and hate and take and love some more. Somehow you justify mistakes and try to find a better way to solve the problems day to day when it's family. You take the trouble as it comes and love them more than anyone. Good or bad or indifferent, it's still family. You choose your lovers, you pick your friends, but not the family that you're in. They'll be with you to the end, 'cause they're family. And when it's family, you forgive them, for they know not what they do. When it's family, they're a mirror of the worst and best in you. When it's family, when it's family, may I be that all I should be to the family. Thank you.
Yes, yes, when it's family. We come together with our families, especially at the holidays, and it's a time of joy and celebration, lots of laughter. Our families' lives inspire us. Yes? Yeah. And they're great cheerleaders for our latest adventures. We go to our families to be, buoyed up and inspired and cheered for. And this, of course, is the case for some of us. For others, it's quite different, right? And it always seems that there might be someone in the mix who sometimes just gets under our skin a little bit, or a little thorn in the side. Not always, and not always with family. It may just be in the gatherings that we find ourselves in, especially throughout the holiday season. And so Phil's song set us up really nicely for this process. it made me think of a time when I did a wedding and this man from another country could not get over that there was a female preacher there doing the wedding. And he kept talking to me about it and talking to me about it, and I thought, I am not going to mention the gay part because that's really going to throw him. We're never even going to be able to do the ceremony if we go there. So. But it's that otherness that we're always jockeying, It's an interesting thing, and yet at the same time, we love our diversity, that we can always find our work. We can always find the places where we're not joyful about welcoming in the diversity. We can find those rough places. I often think of, my sister used to love, when we were kids, to use the rock tumbler. Did anybody have a rock tumbler when you were kids? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, a lot of you did. So you throw the rocks in there, you find them all over the place, and then they come out really nice and smooth. And I often think life is like that, Just throw a bunch of us together and see what happens when you press the button. Eventually, the idea is that we'll come out smooth, shiny and new, beautiful. And really, I think that's true. That is what happens. But it can be a journey, right? It can be a journey for us to find those places of harmony and peace, to really work together to bring forth the best of what diversity brings for us in all of its ways. Today, it seems a lot of us are faced more with the challenge of diversity around our ideologies and our ideas about how the world best could work. And those seem to be the places where a lot of us are bumping up against one another, where we might have a little challenge with what our today's message title is, Relative Harmony, where we might have a little challenge with relative harmony, both with our relations and all of our relations, our blood relations and beyond. So a lot of times what happens is when we come into scenarios where we're feeling a little tense, like there might be some trouble with Uncle M, or, Aunt Josephine, or whatever it is that we might feel a little bit when we come into that family gathering or we come into some other kind of gathering. And so we kind of have the guard up. Anybody ever do that? Or you might even start to find excuses of why you can't come. But then we finally do show up, right? We show up, and then a lot of times we come with this sort of dichotomy in our minds of it's either got to be grin and bear it or win and lose it. Win or lose it. And so grin and bear it, of course, is just sort of I'm going to kind of get through the process, and I'm going to be there out of my duty as a member of this group. And I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to, shake the boat at all, rock the waters. I'm just mixing up all my metaphors today. Rock the boat. I don't know where shake the waters comes from, but... Thank you. So whatever it is that might be, in mind there. So we might come in with that sort of grin and bear it, or we might come in with this, I've got to really, I'm going to win this one, so it's a win or lose argument kind of thing. It becomes about ego, about being right. And so we kind of get in those places of difficulty with one another. But in the end, it's always what's going on inside of us, right? That's our teachings in Unity. We always come back to what's the work inside of us that's happening? What's the conflict maybe that's going on inside of us? And so it's that work to find that place of authenticity and peace. So it's not a grin and bear it, but it's a show up fully as we are in our own values, in our own belief system, in our own caring, in our own compassion, with an openness and a willingness to make connections. Jesus said something very interesting that might help us on this journey today, and although it's a perplexing scripture, where he says, Jesus, the one known as the Prince of Peace, says, I did not come to the earth to bring peace. Interesting. Well, what did you come to bring? And what follows is, I came to bring the sword, to divide mother against daughter and father against son, and mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, so that foes would be within the same household. What did he mean? What was he saying? What is this sword that he's talking about? Certainly it can't be a sword of violence. Elizabeth Sand Turner, who's a wonderful metaphysician of the Bible, if you've not ever read her any of her books. She's written a book on the Hebrew scriptures, as well as the New Testament, as well as Revelation and the letters of Paul. And it really gives some illumination of some of these scriptures through that metaphysical lens. Of course, we can all read through our own metaphysical lens, but it helps to have a guide sometimes. And she talks about the difference between destructive peace and constructive peace. That destructive peace is the kind that comes at any cost. It's the kind that might include violence, and then we call it peace in the end after the horrible war or whatever it is, the gang violence, whatever it may be. Or the kind of violence that is that sort of repressed quiet, that grin and bear it thing, where we don't share how we feel because we don't want to make waves. And so there's that, what I was looking for before. And so there's that sort of just pushing down really who we are, almost kind of like, sucking in the breath, not really being fully who we are and fully present. Yet I believe what Jesus was offering in this sword was a way of being truly authentic, being fully ourselves, being relaxed and open and at ease, completely in integrity, and also able to connect with others. It's a tricky walk, can be sometimes, right? When we're faced with these kinds of challenges or potential conflicts. Yet that kind of constructive peace is the kind that sees with the eye of oneness, that sees with the heart of oneness, that understands, just like in the meditation we did, just like me. Just like me, this individual wants fulfillment in their life. Just like me, this individual wants love and peace, connection, kindness, wants to have somewhere to serve and wants to be served in some way. We all want the same things. And so when we can soften our focus a bit and relax into the just like me, we begin to turn our foes into friends. It really, in some ways, is that simple. We can come with different ways of approaching our wielding this sword with others. Come with curiosity. So come to the table with a kind of open curiosity that doesn't bring the expectations of all the things that have happened in the past or the way that how this is going to roll because it always rolls this way at Christmas time with this family or whatever it is that we've decided it works this way, or this particular holiday party that I go to with my neighbors. Whatever it is that we have in our minds of how it's always been, to become like a child again, to shed those expectations, to come new with an openness and a curiosity, and to ask questions of the other, or to make statements. Interesting. When did you first come to that viewpoint? What has shaped that? What is it that you really deeply want for yourself or your family or your neighborhood or your country? Opening ourselves in that way to listen from a different place, once we've listened from a different place, it may also open up the opportunity for us to be able to say what we're feeling. If you'd be willing to listen for a few moments, I would love to share with you my experience on that topic or some of my ideas on that topic. Would that be okay with you? Even like setting it up that way so it's not just a crosstalk, anybody talk over each other in their family? That's why I love counsel so much. It just slows everything down. Somebody's got a talking piece. It's like, okay, talker, listener, speaker, listener. And you could even do that in your family or wherever you go, to say, hey, my heart's been hurting about what's going on in our world, and I would love if we all just took a turn holding in the talking piece and talked for a few minutes on how we feel about what's happening, and everybody just listened. What a different dynamic that can create, right? For a family or a gathering where it may go differently, typically. And to even point out, say if somebody makes some joke or slur that's offensive to you, to even point out, those people, whoever those people are just like us. They want just like us all the things we just mentioned, the love, attention, joy, prosperity, fulfillment. It brings us all back to the heart, doesn't it? We all can get that. So that's one offering, one of many offerings. Another thing that we can do is just hold the idea wherever we are and whatever conversations and situations we get into, to ask within ourselves, what is needed right now? What is wanted right now? Even for ourselves, what is needed right now? What is wanted right now? You may be surprised at what comes. You know, it might just be a listening ear. It might just be to pass the gravy, you know, and just comment on the meal. Sometimes that's really where we need to go. You know, for years, my brother-in-law and I have had this ongoing process of me learning to use the sword, and sometimes very messily. And, you know, it used to be long ago that we would get into conversations around religion or politics, and his face would start getting really red, and his voice would start raising, and I wouldn't pay attention to the cues, you know? And so he'd tell me all the reasons why my opinion was wrong, and I'd get angry and respond back. And so it was just this icky sort of, you know, then we'd both walk away, you know, and it just didn't feel good. And so it's like, you know, how can we get more skillful at this? So for a time, I just didn't engage those conversations. It would just be, you know, asking about his life and his hobbies, you know, what's going on with your garden, how's your work going, and just don't touch those topics. Occasionally he'd ask for my opinion over the years on a current event, and so I'd give it, and then if I noticed that, you know, the energy was rising, I had learned enough skill with the sword within to say, you know, I respect your opinion and your passion, and we just don't agree, and then just, you know, drop the topic. Last Christmas, I was over at my sister and brother-in-law's who have slightly different, maybe very different, religious views from mine. I mean, my sister introduced me to Unity, so there's some kind of connection there. But anyway, so we had this conversation, and, you know, it was definitely rich and diverse in our conversation, but I enjoyed it. And in the morning, he actually checked in with me and said, hey, I hope I didn't come on too strong last night, which I thought he didn't. And so I was like, wow, we're both learning. You know, over the years, this thing has been like a chisel, not a sword. It's been kind of messy, not so skillful. But we're both getting more skillful, I think. And I think what happens is when one of us takes the lead, when one of us says, okay, I am going to really figure this out. How can I keep my own integrity, keep my own authenticity, not sell out in any kind of way, and still be open-hearted, connecting, listening, curious, you know, and be in family together, be connected, be in harmony in some way. How can we get this, you know, over the years or over the days, whatever, maybe you're a quick learner, so maybe it'll just be days for you or minutes for you. But just learning to use that sword of truth, that sword of constructive peace that Jesus was offering us. I think he was very smart to place this scripture in the household, because we make an earnest effort with those who are closest to us to create that kind of peace and that kind of harmony. And then we can extend it out, you know, to all, not just the people who think like us. That really seems to be the rub where we are in our world right now, to not just gather with those who think like us and who will continue to buoy up our opinions, and so we can all be glad about how smart we all are that we think alike. But instead to get in the mix a little bit, but in the mix with this kind of curiosity, this kind of openness, this kind of kindness and integrity. It's a different kind of exchange that we can create when we offer that to one another. But I like that he chose the sword. It gets our attention. You know, he didn't choose something very soft. He chose something that really gets your attention. And it's tough work, you know. The sword is something tough to learn. It's often heavy, you know. Can be a little scary, unwieldy. And so it's something that's kind of what the art is like, cutting away the dross. For within ourselves, then we're looking at the places that don't serve us anymore. The old erroneous beliefs. And like that process of when new spiritual ideas get introduced to us and we're in old limiting thinking, there's kind of a process of conflict, or what we would call chemicalization, spiritual chemicalization. And so that process is going on where new ideas are being added and there's kind of a reaction to it. And so over time we kind of learn to cut away what doesn't work anymore. Cut away the old ideas, the old beliefs, the old ways of showing up, and show up in a new way that feels more true to who we are, more honoring of the divine in us and the divine in all beings. So that inner work, as Gibran once said, you know, the teacher says, love your enemies, and so I obeyed and I loved myself. You know, it's recognizing that a lot of times it's what's in us, the ways that we're thinking, the perspectives that we're bringing, that is the work. And once we begin to work that, everything around us sort of shifts into a different kind of harmony, a different kind of rich experience of diversity. You know, I was in Santa Barbara this week on the beach. I know you're going to get out your small violins now. And doing what we often do when Brenly and I we're with little ones, especially when we're in nature, is if we see litter, we just pick it up as we go, you know. And thing after thing I was picking up, and I started getting that mindset of, oh, I can't believe this, you know, this is close to almost in the water, these big containers of food, and, you know, and so the judging mind gets going, right? So I'm picking up the litter with the judging mind, you know. And so I notice this and think, oh, okay, well, I don't really want to do it with that mindset. And so began to switch into service. Oh, it's an opportunity to serve. And so then I began to pick up the litter as I went in the path with service. And I noticed there was an older man and a young maybe son or a young boy with him. And they were really watching me. And I thought, you know, as we use this sword, all of us, I wonder if we get more and more nuanced. I wonder if they could tell the difference between the person who is picking up litter with judgment on her mind and the person who is picking up litter with a sense of service and humility or humbleness on her mind, you know? I think we do become more and more sensitive the more and more skilled we become to these kinds of energies that we're giving off to one another, no matter what it is that we're doing. And so it's that work that is the work of the sword, the work of constructive peace on our way. It's all about our intention, you know. What do we bring with us as an intention? Do we bring an intention of being grateful? Do we bring an intention of being in harmony? Do we bring an intention of being in integrity? Even speaking those affirmations to ourselves while we're in a difficult situation or when we're going into a place where we think there possibly could be conflict here. But I'm bringing a curious and open mind. And my intention today is to remain curious and open, to ask questions, to say things like, interesting, fabulous, fantastic. How did that come to be? When did you first begin to shape those ideas? It's so interesting to me that we grew up in the same household and we have such different viewpoints. At what point do you think the two of us went in different directions? You know, those are just curious questions. They don't have to be putting the other person on the defensive. You know, they can be done in such a way that it's an invitation to say, isn't that interesting that we've all, you know, ended up in different places? And what do we now have to offer each other is the second part of that question. You know, now that we have these different perspectives, what is it that we can bring, you know? So we can come in with a fight or flight kind of standpoint, and there might be times, you know, even Jesus said, shake the dust off your sandals and move on sometimes, right? There are times that's the appropriate response, and we'll know it within ourselves if we're in this place of integrity or authenticity. But there also will be times we stay in it, we stay engaged. More often than not, we stand in that place of truth. We stand with that sword of truth and know that it aligns us with all that we are and all that we're becoming. And from there, there's a whole different world that can open up for us in working together, in listening to each other, in inviting all perspectives to the table to better understand one another. You probably remember the story about the lion and the mouse. The lion was the great king of the jungle. You know, he would roar, and he was the largest. He was the top predator, of course, and would walk with his big paws all around the jungle and sort of vibrate the earth a little bit. And one day he got into some thorny branches and got a thorn in his paw. And he roared and he roared and he roared with pain. And the other creatures didn't want to help, either because they were afraid of him or because they kind of thought he got what he deserved, you know? So they all just sort of stayed quiet. And after a while, he finally was so exhausted from the pain, he just fell asleep for a while. When he woke up, there was a little mouse running by. And he put his good paw on top of that mouse's tail, and he said, "Ha ha, I'm going to have you for breakfast." But the mouse was clever. The mouse knew immediately what it had to offer the lion, and it said, "Oh, but if you eat me for breakfast, I won't be able to remove that thorn from your paw." And then he went on to say, we could really help each other. I'm just a little tiny morsel. You're going to want a much bigger meal than me. Why don't you let me help you? And then you can go and hunt something bigger. Well, the lion thought for a moment. And the more he thought about it, the more he realized that actually this thing that he was about to harm was the key to his freedom. And it's in that little pregnant pause that we can all recognize that this one who's sitting across from us, who we're thinking of as foe in this moment, in that moment, that person is the key to our freedom. Or this one within us that we are judging in the moment, we realize, that I was about to judge is the key to my freedom. And it is in that moment that the lion decides, instead of to hurt the mouse, to let the mouse help him and to befriend the mouse instead. And so the two of them become fast friends, and they have great adventures all through the jungle for many years after that. We love a happy ending, don't we? I know you were on the edge of your seat there for a minute. It's like the wood with no names in Alice in Wonderland. I feel that's like a little bit of where my brother-in-law have traversed together, and maybe you have someone in your family who you've traversed this land with. In Alice in Wonderland, Alice and a fawn come to meet each other just inside the wood with no names. What happens when you step in the wood with no names is you lose your identity. You don't remember your name anymore. And so the fawn says to Alice, "What's your name?" And she says, "Why, I don't know." And she says to the fawn, "What's your name?" And he says, "I don't know." And so she hugs on the softness of the fawn's neck, and they walk through the woods together, just having a joyful time and really enjoying each other. But as soon as they step out of the wood with no names, the fawn, whose eyes had been soft and open, those big brown doughy eyes, that just want to love and connect, had been looking at Alice in that way. And suddenly they became filled with fear. And the fawn said, "I'm a fawn and you're a human child." And it bounced away and went off into the thicket. And this is a bit of what we do, isn't it? It's the labeling that keeps us in this locked-in place that says, I'm in this wood with many names, and this is your name, and this is my name, and we don't belong together. But when we take a little stroll through the wood with no names, we find that we're all the same. We enter that place of oneness. So maybe having that intention as we go through life, to make a little stroll through the wood with no names. So a couple things will happen for us, I think, as we take the lessons from the mouse and the lion, is that compassion will arise for us when we notice that somebody's upset because really they just have a thorn in their paw and there's pain, right? And we can actually, by an offering of listening or speaking from the truth or just being a loving presence, offer a way for that thorn to be removed. We can be clever like the mouse and begin to share some of the ways we could benefit one another, some of the ways that we're actually interested in what the other thinks, as we'd like to share a little bit of what we think. And that's the beginning of harmony. You know, harmony is all these, if you think of singing harmony, it's all these individual voices that blend together in one beautiful sound. And so that is a lot about what our walk is when we're celebrating diversity, holding inclusivity and oneness as our understanding of truth. And becoming grateful, using that gratitude, that vibration of gratitude wherever we go, finding one little thing to be grateful for, maybe even expressing it about the others, lifts up the vibration of the whole, certainly lifts up the vibration of us as we express that gratitude, as we allow that gratitude. You know, some people say that it's a shame that God put thorns on roses. And some people say, oh, look how beautiful those roses are amongst the thorns. You know, it's all a matter of perspective, isn't it? And I found just a few years ago, I learned that it's really easy to snap the thorn off a rose. Did you know that? Yeah, you just snap them right off. It's like using a sword of truth. We can get that good at it. and it becomes that easy to behold and to maintain something really beautiful in our families and in our world. Let's close out with an affirmation together. I am in harmony with all my relations. Together, I am in harmony with all my relations. And so it is.
Thank you, Kristen, for reminding us of the responsibility of the oneness within us. Our prayer chaplains are available after the service for your personal prayer support. They are wearing lavender stoles. Whether you have a joy or a concern on your heart today, our prayer chaplains is a powerful opportunity to have your intentions raised up in consciousness. Now it's time for our prosperity celebration. Yeah. So, on my spiritual path, I was blessed to spend 4 years within an American Baptist church. And one Sunday, Reverend Willie said, open your Bibles to chapter 2 of the Mark Gospel. And so you heard all the pages turning, right? And he goes, I wish that we can get excited about opening the Bible as we do in front of football games. And if Reverend Willie could be here today at 11:30 celebrating prosperity, he'd be really joyful. So let us now open our hearts to the consciousness of giving as we align with the universal law of circulation. As we give, so shall we receive. In truth, there is no lack or limitation. You say that with me? In truth, there is no lack or limitation. Abundance is our true nature. There are a variety of ways to financially give to our community. If you choose to use the yellow card for a credit card donation, please include the 3-digit CVC code. That's really fun to say. 3-digit CVC code found on the back of your card. And now I invite you to take your offering in your hand. Repeat our affirmation with me. Together, divine love, one with me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am joy-filled and grateful.
Coming, didn't you? We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, sing. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. Everyone can see we're together as we walk on by, and we fly like the birds of a feather. I won't tell no lie. All of the people around us, they say, can they be that close? Just let me state for the record, we're giving love in a family dose. We are family. Yeah. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, sing. We are family. Everybody now. I got all my sisters with me, and my brothers too. We are family. Get up, everybody. don't get depressed. Here's what we call our golden rule. Have faith in you and the things you do, and you won't go wrong. This is our family too. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. Everybody now. We are family. Yeah, everybody can say we are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family, and the mothers and the fathers too. Everybody now. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. Have faith in the thing you do. Everyone now. I got everybody to say we are family. Always have lots of fun. Play that funky bass, Brian. Party. Everybody sing. We are family. One more time now. Sisters and me. We are family. Everybody get on up. Everybody sing. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, family, let's bless these offerings. We give thanks for the abundance that is here, that blesses our lives and blesses our families and all of our relations and all the ways that we understand that. And let's bless it together. We give thanks for the ever-increasing, unceasing flow of absolute good in our lives now. So it is. We welcome our children in. We are marching in the light of God. We are marching in the light of God. We are marching in the light of God. We are marching, marching, we are marching, we are marching in the light of God. We are marching, marching, we are marching, marching, we are marching in the light of God. What a beautiful bunch. Anything you want to share with us about today's experience?
Do you guys want to share anything what you were grateful today for and are making our grateful boxes?
Suddenly everybody's shy. I think Faith wants to share something.
We started making gratitude boxes today, and we cut out pictures in like magazines of what we were grateful for, like our family, our food, and cars and stuff like that. Does anyone from the Peacemakers want to share? No? Okay. Then we're good, I guess. Yeah.
We made a lot of peace in here too. Let's bless our youth and teachers together. Youth and teachers, you are loved, special, and important. The light of God shines through you. And I invite you to join with your neighbor's hand, and we will close out with a prayer of protection and the peace song. Thanks for the finger. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God ever present, family all are we. Let Let this be the moment now. You are the light and the love and the peace on earth right now. So let your light shine and have fun.
Thank you.